Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app, O'Connor and Company.
Well, time continues to fly by on O'Connor and Company this morning. It is 7:07 in the AM on News Talk 105.9 WMAL. We are making sense of the news. Happy Wednesday, everybody. I am Andrew Langer in for Larry O'Connor today, sitting alongside my longtime professional collaborator and good friend, Julie Gunlock. Hello, Julie.
Good morning.
Good morning. So we got a great show. You just got to stay tuned to all 4 hours. By the way, if you miss any of O'Connor and Company, you can always check us out on the WMAL app. Listen at your leisure. And you know something? If you've already heard it, you might want to listen again. I know I'm enough of a narcissist, Julie, that I love listening to myself on podcasts. Yes, I do. I'm my favorite podcast. Imagine that. Listen, great show coming up. We got Josh Christenson joining us in just a little while. He's the D.C. bureau chief for the New York Post, talking about would-be assassin Thomas Crooks. We got Tom Rousey from WJLA ABC 7 to talk about the D.C. Metro's efforts to reduce Metro bus fare evasion. And this story about the fight over folks who want to build a third floor on their house in Fairfax County. Joining us right now, Morgan Wright. Morgan is a cybersecurity expert, former chief security advisor for SentinelOne, and a former advisor in the U.S. State Department's anti-terrorism assistance program. So, Morgan, yesterday morning, we're all trying to do stuff on the air. We're all multitasking. We're all trying to tweet stuff out or see tweets. In fact, Julie had sent over a tweet for us to look at, and I tried to go and access it, and I couldn't access it, and it was then we discovered that there was this massive outage. What happened yesterday? I know Julie and I didn't break the internet, but how did the internet get broken?
Well, you might have broke it by all the people listening to your podcast.
Sure.
Yeah, no. What happened? This is a self-inflicted digital wound. This is what happened to Amazon about a month ago. So wasn't a cyber attack, wasn't anything nefarious. It was just, to keep it not too geeky, but somebody had an update to a file. Cloudflare, what it does is it protects a lot of the traffic on the internet. In fact, 20% of it. So it protects against things like denial of service attacks. One of the biggest services they provide now are all these bots, these automated bots and these spam bots. So that's the one that got them. There was a file that was pushed to update the bot thing. Well, what happened is it didn't have the proper configuration on it, let's say, and it duplicated like a virus. So 2 became 4, 4 became 8, 8 became 16. The problem is when they pushed it out to what they call these edge routers, because there's like 300 of these content delivery sites. That's why it stores your information closer to where you need it, rather than going all the way over to Singapore to get your data. Well, if you're in Virginia, it has a Virginia data center. Well, these things on the edge can only hold so much information. It's like putting 10 pounds of Spam into a 5-pound can. Well, they put 20 pounds of Spam into a 5-pound can, and it started just shutting everything down. And that's the short story about how the internet, and by the way, 80% of the world's internet traffic goes through Loudoun County, Virginia, where I'm at.
Wow.
So when something happens, you really feel the effect on the East Coast.
It really does push the need for these data centers and getting them more decentralized, doesn't it, Morgan?
You bring up a really good point, because there is a thing in cybersecurity, and even a lot of things, it's called layer defense, but you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. So when there's an old saying, it doesn't hurt to be number one. Well, it doesn't hurt when you're the only one. Think about what happened to CrowdStrike, I think, a year and a half ago, where their agents basically took down 40% of the internet because people were running their, internet protection.
Right.
Right. So what happens is a lot of these companies now start saying, hey, we're going to get a little bit from you here, a little bit from you here. They're de-risking. So if one piece goes down, you still got these things running. But with the data centers, it's not so much the data center, it's what protects the data center, right? So
makes sense.
Cloudflare is what protects that. And when that goes down, it prevents you from getting, when Amazon went down, nobody could connect anything because it broke the IP addressing scheme. Well, in this thing, it just shut everything down. And it's not like it didn't know where to go. It just says, nope, sorry, folks, park's closed. Moose out front should have told you. You can't go anywhere anymore. So this is the benefit of having technology, because, we can do commerce.
Right.
But Andrew, here's the big thing. This outage, I did some back of the napkin calculations this morning. When you figure they've got 20% of the internet, there's about $13 to $15 billion a day in internet commerce. This outage could have cost anywhere from $800 to $1.5 billion in lost commerce, lost revenue, from advertising to API stuff. Open API, ChatGPT uses a lot of that. So
sure,
a lot of people took a financial hit when this thing went down.
This went down at 5:20. I'm reading from a story on this at USA Today. It went down at 5:20 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it wasn't fully resolved until 9:30 a.m., which frankly I question that because I feel like I was still having problems after 9:30. But where does this sort of rate in terms of these cyber attacks and sort of these at least financial disasters? Where was this number 5, number 1? Where does this rate?
I don't know exactly where it rates, but you hit upon a point. It actually, when you dig into a little bit of what Cloudflare put out, it was full recovery didn't happen until a little bit after noon. So you were spot on. They said we recovered by 9:30, but look, it took till noon. Here, I'm not sure where it is, but let me tell you what happens when you get things like this, things like Amazon, things like CrowdStrike. Our adversaries are out there, people like China,
right,
Russia, North Korea, Iran, and they're looking at it. They're saying, aha. For example, just recently there was a story about how China used Claude from Anthropic to automate a cyber attack. Well, that wasn't the first time. The first time actually happened back in August. And they learned from that. So our adversaries are learning at it from a critical infrastructure standpoint. What key services? We don't have to take out everything, but if we can take out one or two things or degrade them, what's going to have the most impact? And I'll tell you, the minute Gen Z or Gen X can't get to some of their social media, or you can't get to your bank account, or especially in the news business, people say, well, what do you need access to X for? Well, we're in the news business. We read stories.
Right.
That's where a lot of the stuff is from. It has impact. So I think our adversaries look at this and go, in the future, if we're going to do something, let's start targeting some of these things because we can now see the impact that it's going to have globally and financially. And that's one of the ways you heard an adversary. You go after critical infrastructure, power, water, but you also go after the money.
We're talking with Morgan Wright. He's a cybersecurity expert, former chief security advisor for SentinelOne, former senior advisor in the U.S. State Department's Anti-Terrorism Assistance Program. Right, Morgan, this is, at the end of the day, it is both the promise and the peril of so much automation that's out there and so much AI being out there. We talked about this yesterday with these AI toys. We talked about it on Monday with the idea of AI being able to resurrect conversations with deceased relatives. At the end of the day, right, there's so much good that can be done, but it exposes a tremendous amount of massive vulnerability, doesn't it?
Oh, it absolutely does. Especially when you start thinking of the issues of privacy, some of these AI models can do in terms of predictive things. We try and talk about privacy, but look, in this age, if we're every zero, every one is being vacuumed up somewhere, it's being analyzed. We're running into soon to an area to where privacy may be more of an idea than it is actually something that we can attain. And that's the one part that concerns me is what does it get into the privacy? Will I be able to guess all your medical records because of certain things you've said online? Right. And if I'm an insurance company, I can go, you didn't disclose that you had this condition. Now I'm going to prevent you from getting any insurance. So there's a lot of good stuff. I use the heck out of it. I've got a DOJ-funded project called the National Center for Open and Unsolved Cases. We actually use AI to help us make connections between open source information. We're all connected geographically, demographically, psychographically. So there's some good that can help do that. But the downside is, especially when you see what bad guys do with it, imagine it's one thing is that if you have one guy trying to break into your house and you've got it really pretty well defended. Well, now imagine that there's 100 automated robots, 100 Optimus Primes, trying to break into your home. Pretty soon our defenses, it's not you get out of it is overwhelmed sometimes by what it's going to cause. Hear.
Well, listen, Morgan, we have to leave it there. Thank you so very much for joining us today.
You bet.
That was Morgan Wright, a cybersecurity expert, former chief security advisor for SentinelOne. So much more to get to.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Well, I got to tell you something, Julie. I am shocked, I'll tell you, that the cost of the rebuilding of the Francis Scott Key Bridge outside of Baltimore is going. And by the way, you have to call it Baltimore, hun. Is gonna cost between 4.3 and 5.2 billion. More than double the initial 1.7 to 1.9 billion projection. Oh, and it's now delayed to 2030.
And it's delayed.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, with Wes Moore in charge, I mean, how is this even happening? How could it possibly be?
Yeah, no,
they need to put the Amish in charge, honestly.
Right.
Put the Amish in charge. It'll literally be built in 10 minutes.
10 minutes. And it will last a lifetime.
Forever.
So for those of you who don't remember, in March of 2024, now I did radio in Baltimore for a very long time. The Key Bridge actually was kind of a marvel to look at when you would go either around the Baltimore Beltway or through either of the bridges and tunnels under the harbor there. And of course, there was a ship that hit the pilings and the bridge collapsed. It was really kind of stunning. It killed 6 workers. And it is an undertaking, especially as you're trying to build a modern bridge. But the fact is, and here's the irony here, is that the Trump administration is doing what it can to engage in massive amounts of permitting reform, the kind of permitting processes that stand in the way and cause these massive delays. But it's states like Maryland and governors like Wes Moore who push so strongly against the Trump agenda. It's the Democrats who push so strongly against the permitting reform, and this is what caused. Now, Wes Moore is claiming that it is the Trump administration's fault.
Of
that
course.
It is the tariffs, it is the other sort of economic factors that are causing it to balloon. No, it is Democratic policies, Democratic labor policies, Democratic permitting policies, Democratic environmental policies that are standing in the way of getting this bridge built and built in a cost-effective way. Julie, I know you got thoughts here.
Yeah, no, I mean, and to the detriment of everyone who lives around there, this was obviously a key, just a key bridge.
Key bridge, yes.
No, but it was an important bridge.
It was.
And they've had to reroute traffic, and people are inconvenienced, and they're going out of their way, and it's going to go on for years and years and years. And so you're absolutely right about the permitting reform and regulatory reform that needs to happen. Nothing can happen quickly anymore, even if the need is so dire as getting this bridge back up and working. It shouldn't be like this, but this is what happens in a Democrat-run city, and it's what happens in the United States today. This isn't so different from any other city.
It needs oversight, and I'm going to step in there and say that we also need some major investigation as to what's going on here, because to me, understanding the corruption in Baltimore, the corruption in Baltimore County, which surrounds Baltimore City, and understanding the corruption in Maryland. When all of a sudden a project is delayed by a couple of years and the cost doubles, I think I get the sense that everybody wants their taste. Somebody wants to wet their beak in this.
And just think about this. I mean, think about this. Should be a scandal. This should be a major scandal, and they have picked Wes Moore as one of the leading presidential contenders.
Right.
I mean, this should kill his chances.
100%.
But it won't.
Right. And something, and Sean Duffy is right in this. He weighed in yesterday over X, so we're just talking about X. The cost to replace Baltimore's Francis Scott Key Bridge has doubled in price to more than $5 billion. Clearly, this project needs oversight to ensure taxpayer dollars are used efficiently and Americans see how their hard-earned dollars will be spent. In fact, you know something? Let's do something unprecedented here. Let's install some kind of an oversight board, some kind of Francis Scott Key Bridge accounting board that puts all of the financial data online so that everybody can see it, see how every penny is being spent. It goes along with what Grover Norquist used to talk about, how I don't know if you remember this, Julie, but every government-issued credit card should have its credit card statements online and in some kind of a searchable format. This to me is a no-brainer here. Sean Duffy, President Trump, pushed back, expressing concern that Annapolis may intend to award contracts for the Francis Scott Key Bridge in a manner that relies on race and sex of contractors. He warned the governor of the potential legal ramifications for doing so, citing the Civil Rights Act. This is amazing to me. Listen, we got so much more to get to. Right now it's 7:23 on WMAL.
Coming up, we're going to talk to Josh Christenson, of the New York Post. He'll give us an update on the latest developments about Trump's would-be assassin, Thomas Crooks. Keep it here, 7:30.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. WMAL. News now. Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
Well, good morning one and all. Hi there. It is 7:37 here on News Talk 105.9 WMAL. We are making sense of the news. I'm Andrew Langer in for Larry O'Connor today, alongside Julie Gunlock. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning.
So I've been eager to talk to Josh Christenson. I met Josh a little bit ago at a dinner in D.C. He's with the Washington Post. He's the bureau chief for the New York Post, D.C. bureau chief for the New York Post. And we've got a lot to cover here. Josh, Julie and I were talking yesterday. There was this story. I am going to tie them together in a kind of a funny way. The story about these AI generated teddy bears. And how they are getting inappropriate with kids. Maybe if Thomas Crooks had been able to channel his instincts there as opposed to into what we now know about his artistic efforts and his research into furries. What do we know about Thomas Crooks? What have we learned?
Well, according to sources we talked to, he had a pretty extensive online footprint that was not something that either members of Congress who investigated this last year or, officials at the FBI who testified about this shared with the American public before. He was on multiple platforms, commenting, making violent comments about, politicians, Democrats, making anti-Semitic remarks. But as you also referenced, he had a bit of a sort of strange predilection for this website called DeviantArt, where he would post different things, including this thing we reported on yesterday about his interest in muscle mommies, which I didn't know about before either. But a lot of it was, kind of showing that the American public was not able to learn everything about Thomas Crooks after the assassination attempt against the president, and it's renewed calls by some members of Congress. You'll see a story we have up this morning on this for a new investigation into Crooks and what may have motivated the shooting.
I really hope to never hear about muscle mommies again, but I know that is a part of the story. I'm interested, Josh, and there seems to be no curiosity about the parents here. And, I'm the mother of 3 teenage boys. If, my boys started closing their door and, having this very intense online life, I would notice this, okay, because I'm an involved parent. Has there been any, have there been, I have not seen them, there may have been, have there been any interviews with the parents? Has there been any information on the parents? Did they notice these changes? What's the status of that angle of this story?
There's been very little that's come out. I remember last year, they were briefly confronted in, I think, a Walmart or grocery store parking lot by some members of the media, but, declined to comment. They obviously cooperated with the federal investigation, but we don't know what was shared there. I don't believe they cooperated with any congressional investigations, but, there were some surprising things that the congressional investigation uncovered about, Crooks sort of hiding this secret life he had from his parents. And it's something that I'm sure if they continue to dig deeper will yield some interesting things.
I've been watching this Netflix series Death by Lightning, which examines the craziness of Charles Guiteau, who assassinated President James Garfield. Folks, if you haven't watched that, I cannot recommend it highly enough. He was obsessed with presidential killers. Talk about that.
Yeah, Crooks. This is one thing that the former FBI director Christopher Wray shared last year was Crooks searched on Google for how far away was Lee Harvey Oswald from Kennedy. There were other searches that our source turned up about Jack Ruby, who assassinated Lee Harvey Oswald, different things about mass shooters. So there's this fascination with the infamy that comes with political violence of a particular stripe, certainly in Crooks's internet history.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where he was frequently quoting Mao, but he also was threatening Democrats as well. It just seems that this is the deviant flavor of crazy.
Well, the thing that was key about our report is that before this source came forward, much of what the kind of official story was told by officials to members of Congress last year was that he posted anti-Semitic, anti-immigrant rhetoric.
Yeah.
But what you see from our report is that there was a clear 180-degree shift between his posts pre-pandemic and kind of post-pandemic. Something about as America headed into the pandemic, he began to attack Trump. He felt that Trump was not aggressive enough in social distancing and other COVID restrictions. He also referred to, Trump and MAGA people as sort of like a cult. But yeah, there's this strain of political violence, but where it's directed, I suppose, is something that shifted from 2019 focused on the left to 2020 focused on the right. So
to be clear, we go into, you have someone who's got he's got a bad social personality, marginal social personality. You put him in isolation, you put him in lockdown, and shocker, he goes. It deepens his insanity here. Josh, what else are we missing here before we let you go? We're talking with Josh Christenson. He's the DC bureau chief for the New York Post.
Yeah, we have a story up today that everybody should go take a look at. Talking with some members from the House who are part of this special investigative committee that looked into the Butler assassination attempt. We spoke with Representative Mike Kelly, who led that. He's a representative from Pennsylvania, whose district actually comprises Butler, where the assassination attempt took place. And there's just a lot of different discussions that are happening on the Hill right now about what more information can be gleaned from the FBI and the DOJ. We also know Senator Ron Johnson met with Attorney General Pam Bondi yesterday. So we're hoping that there will be more information coming in the near future based on these questions that lawmakers are asking.
Excellent. Listen, Josh Christensen, thank you so very much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Go and check that out, Josh Christensen on the New York Post. It is 7:44 here on WMAL.
Later this morning on the Chris Plante Show, why did Jeffrey Epstein hang a painting in his mansion of Bill Clinton wearing a blue dress and red pumps? 9 a.m. on WMAL.
Well, Julie, I always love talking about property battles here. I also love hearing a little madness in the morning. So we're going to have Tom Rousey joining us from ABC 7 WJLA in the next hour to talk about a battle that is happening in Fairfax County. Here, let's hear what he had to say so we all understand the context of the story. Here he is laying out the controversy. Let's play cut number 13, Michael.
Additions and home rebuilds have become a contentious issue in some D.C. area neighborhoods. One home addition in Fairfax County is getting so much attention, negative attention, that one county supervisor wants to change zoning rules. Tom Rousey reports.
This one-story home is where Chris Leonard and his wife live, and this home next door belongs to 3 generations of the Wynn family. What's got a lot of folks talking is the size of the addition being built to the Wynn's home right here.
This is the most hideous thing I've ever seen in this neighborhood.
Wanda Mitchell grew up in Greenbrier and says she's never seen anything like this. Her mother is an original homeowner from 1968 and still lives here.
Oh, it's hideous. It should never be allowed in this community.
Homeowner Mike Wynn says he's building the addition because his home is too small for the 3 generations that live here.
Asian culture, we tend to stay with have our parents stay with us so we can take care of them when they get older. We don't send them to the nursing home.
So I'm looking at this, and unfortunately, because we are in radio, it doesn't quite do justice.
Let me tell you. Okay, yeah. I live very close to this house. Okay,
oh, do you?
And I have seen They have had drones over this house. The local news has really investigated this, and obviously Tom, who we'll have on coming up. This is a monstrosity.
Okay.
This is, you mentioned when you have been teasing this. You like this family wants to put a third level on their house. No. They want to put a tower on the side.
It's
of
not
their
a tower, Julie. It's a wall. It's a wall of a house.
Okay, fine. Whatever you want to call it. It is. Yeah. First of all, I can't believe the county approved this. By the way, we added on to our house. And you would not believe. We literally wanted to just it's the most common addition. You just put a box on the back of your house.
Right.
And I can't even describe the process. I don't know how this was approved.
Right.
The house next to it is a very small rambler. It's a low level 1-story rambler. It will not get sunlight from now on. I mean,
and I know we had one person tweeted us about God forbid somebody would have put solar panels on their roof and all of a sudden folks, I can make a joke about this. There was the Simpsons episode where Mr. Burns blocks out the sun by putting a big thing up on top and that's in fact it's the episode where Mr. Burns gets shot. But literally the context is important here because essentially picture three. Actually, basically the way it looks right now, picture 3 single width trailers on top of each other. That's the width of it, just in a straight wall going up, really close, by the way, to the neighbor's driveway. So you're absolutely right. I don't know how the setback would be done. Now, listen, you will not get a more orthodox property rights person than me, but this is an insanity.
Well, and it does ruin the property value of the houses around it. I mean, I don't know if we have time to play these other cuts, but, I want to say, to the family who's doing this, they were approved and they went ahead with it. And I applaud them for wanting to take care of their family and having generations there and older relatives living with them to care for them. I don't know who's at fault here because, again, the homeowner who's admittedly building this monstrosity, he was approved.
Right.
He went through
it's
the process.
The county's fault.
So yes, it is, and it's very frustrating, and I feel bad for everyone because I suspect there will be some changes made to this.
I suspect it as well here. Yeah. We'll listen. Maybe Heather, if we have time, we'll play some of this in the 8 a.m. hour in preparation for our interview with Tom Rousey. In the meantime, it's 7:53.